Some of the ways we can enhance our files and provide a consistent unifying feel, or even simply to add informational elements to our files, include backgrounds and watermarks. We'll take a look at that now. We're working with the file cfonewsletter.pdf. We'll open the Tools panel, and in the Pages category, we'll focus on the Edit Page Design section, which is the third one down. We've already looked at headers and footers in a previous video, but now let's look at background. When we edit the background, we have the ability to add background elements directly on our page, which at the moment is a plain white page. The background will replace the plain white and will be underneath all of the text and graphics elements on our page. Clicking the drop down for background, we have Add Background, and when we click this, we get this large dialog box. Notice the preview on the right-hand side so we can see the changes as we make them. We'll start at the top, and we have the ability right at the top to select the page range. In this case, we want our background to be applied to all pages, but we can also choose to limit the background to a range of pages. Within these settings, we can also choose whether we want the background on all the pages, or just the even-numbered pages, or just the odd-numbered pages. So if you're working on a document for a book or a magazine with a 2-page spread, you can actually choose to have different backgrounds for the left and the right-facing pages. We'll leave it set to all pages in range for now, and we'll click OK. What kind of background do we want to add? We have two basic choices: a solid background color or an image file. If we choose color, the default is white, but let's say we want to add a light blue background to this document. We can click here and choose light blue, and we can see the results right away in the preview window. We can even change the opacity to lighten this up some more. If we take it down to around 45% and then click on OK, we can see it's now been applied to our document. As we scroll through, we can see the light blue background is on all the pages. Now if we change our mind and we want to reset this background and revert to white, we can always come here to the Tools panel and click on Remove, and it will revert to the original white page color. But we can also choose Update, and that brings us back to our dialog box. Instead of using a color as the background, we'll use an image file as the background. We'll click on Browse, and notice here that there are only 3 types of files supported: PDF, bitmap, and JPEG. So make sure your intended background is in one of these formats. For our background, we'll go to the Working Files in the Chapter 4 folder, and we'll choose oldpaper.jpg. We'll open this background, and let's leave it at the same 45% opacity setting to make it more subtle. Note that we can click Save Settings at the top to save this as a preset if we were planning to use this background frequently. When we click on OK, we'll get a warning that there's already a background in our document, and we want to click OK to replace it. And that's exactly what we want to do. Now we can see a background that makes our document look sort of like an old parchment paper. So that's how we can add backgrounds, and we can have any variety of colors and images mixed and matched throughout our document. Let's go ahead and remove this background. And now let's talk about adding watermarks. Watermarks can be used when we're circulating a document. Perhaps we want to add a watermark alerting the reader that this is a draft document. Let's choose Watermark and then Add Watermark. We get a similar set of options to what we just saw with backgrounds, except in this case we have the choice between text and a file rather than color and a file. If we choose text, we can type in the word draft, and we can see it immediately reflected in the preview. But we can play around with this a little bit and make some changes. Let's change the text color to a dark red, and let's change the angle to 45 degrees. We can scale it up a little bit. We'll change it to about 75% size. And then we'll change the opacity from 100 down to about 25%. We see the preview as it will appear in our actual document, and we can choose to have this appear behind the page or in front of the page. In this case, in front is more appropriate. If we choose behind, you can see it's obscured by some of the graphics elements. Notice the almost hidden option here for appearance. If we click this, we can choose whether the watermark is shown when this document is printed and whether it's displayed on the screen. Using a combination of these two, you can be quite creative. For example, you can have a watermark that only shows when you print, perhaps saying something like unofficial copy for reference only. We'll leave this document with our watermark showing when it's displayed on the screen as well. Finally, this last option will scale the watermark if we have different page sizes within our document. We'll click on OK, and here's our watermark. And we'll click on OK once again, and we can see it in the document. Now, as with backgrounds, we have the ability to remove or update our watermark. So if we want to change the appearance or insert a new watermark entirely, we can do that by clicking here on Update. As you might expect, this brings us back to the same watermark dialog box. In this case, if we decided we wanted to change from the text of draft, as it's no longer a draft, to confidential, we could simply make the change right here. We could use text as you see here, but we can also use an image file to give our watermarks a more customized appearance. If we click here on File and choose Browse, we can navigate to the working files in the Chapter 4 folder, and we can find stamp.jpg, which is a stamp image that's been created. We'll click on Open, and we'll leave all the rest of the settings the same. We've got the 45-degree angle, and we have the 25% opacity. We'll click on OK, and our watermark is updated on our document. If we print this out, our watermark will be printed right on the document as well. We could change this to not print on the document, but to only be visible on the screen with the options that we've just seen. To summarize, backgrounds and watermarks are two further ways you can enhance your PDFs to create a unifying appearance to your documents and to provide informational messages to the readers.